Good morning, everybody. This is the news we are waking up to for Monday, December the 16th, 2024. I'm Peter Alexievich, and it is day 1027 of the full scale invasion. Now, there really is quite a lot going on, and not all of it makes sense, to be quite frank. Let's start with this. So, last night, the Russian Federation sent at the territory of Ukraine 49 drones of the Shahed type. Now, look, we know, since this keeps coming up in the comments, I'm going to mention it again. There is a drone factory in Tatarstan, um, heavily employing Ugandan women who were likely shanghaied into the work effort there. Just FYI. We know that the Ukrainians have hit that drone factory in the past with drones of their own, but they have not destroyed it. It is believed that they are producing three variations of the Shahed 131, 136 type. Attack drones fitted with reconnaissance cameras so that they can send a live feed back all the way on their one-way trip. And then finally, decoys. Cheap foam rubber and plywood designed to give off a fake radar signature that is supposed to make them look like they're attack drone clones, right? It has been reported that as many as 50% of the UAVs coming in every night are, in fact, decoys. Just decoys. Now, that air defense still has to deal with them. I'm not saying they don't, right? Because we don't know yet whether or not Ukraine can tell the difference. But I do think that it's interesting that at about the same time we found out about the existence of these decoys. And in the month of November, we saw the average daily attack drone figure go to 80, right? On average, 80 a day got sent, with 40 of them being decoys, roughly. New category entered the vernacular here, right? We suddenly had drones being lost, drones deflected back to Russia or Belarus through electronic warfare capabilities. Now, look, I don't know for sure that the Ukrainians have been able to figure out from the radar signatures which ones are decoys and which ones are attack drones. And they're only wasting ammunition on the attack drones. Make sure to take them out. And the others are being diverted with electronic warfare. I don't know that to be true. But I'll bet you that something like it is true. Either the Ukrainians evolved an electronic warfare apparatus that uniformly sends about 50% of the drones to their demise, or they have devised an electronic warfare component that takes out only those drones that don't really pose a threat and are intended to use up the ammunition. Now, look, if they've done that, I mean, my hat is off to them. The whole point of the decoy drones is to exhaust air defense. And if you've managed to figure out a way to control them electronically without expending ammunition, then by God, that's quite a hit. It's quite a hit. And that's about what we saw last night here, right? We saw the Russians send 49 attack UAVs, or one of the variants, and 27 of them were knocked out by air defense. Another 19 were lost we assume to electronic warfare. And another 3 were actually still in the air at the time of this recording. We're still under an air alert here in Kyiv. And there are still 3 up there. So even without the three, it's what is that? It's 46 out of 49. It's a hell of an interception rate for the Ukrainians once again. Now, the big story, of course, is the sinking of this ship. Now, by all accounts, there was a storm at sea. The weather in the straits was not good, by all accounts. The Ukrainian accounts and the Russian accounts all cite the weather as a problem. But the story about how this ship came to break in half keeps changing. Now, look, we know it's an old ship built in 1969. We know that it should have been scrapped 20 years ago. We know it's part of Putin's shadow fleet, right? This fleet of decrepit, aging tankers that he picked up as cheap as he could, anywhere he could find them, to put together this fleet of ships for avoiding sanctions. Now, this particular ship, we believe, was loaded with 4,300 tons of fuel oil. That's how it's described. You can read it in the Kyiv Post this morning, for example, as well as in Reuters. 4,300 tons of fuel oil in this ship. Now, it doesn't say what kind of fuel oil, but right up the road from where this ship went down is the port of Azov. And the port of Azov is where oil tankers refuel with bunker fuel. Bunker fuel is a kind of fuel oil that ships at sea tend to use as their main fuel. So I think it's likely that this was filled with bunker fuel. Now, where it was headed, we don't know. Could it have been headed to the Mediterranean to refuel all those ships out of Tartus that are just circling in the Black Sea right now while they wait for what's next? We don't know. Though it's extremely likely. Extremely likely. The sister ship, the 239 that was here, right? This is 212, 239. 239 also went down with 4,000 tons of fuel oil on it. That's 8,300 tons of fuel oil likely leaked into the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. It's an ecological disaster right up there with the Novokakhovka Dam. Now, how it happened, the story goes that a large wave crashed over the bow of the ship, broke it in half. Again, by all accounts, there was a storm that day. The seas were rough. We have also heard that this ship ran aground, and there's also now talk not of a wave, but of the two ships colliding at sea, because the second ship has also sunk, right? There is at least one fatality confirmed. There are another 4 sailors missing, the below decks crew, the engineers. And the rest of the 27 crew between the two ships were evacuated safely. But this is not all. This isn't. So the story keeps changing, right? Grounded, big wave, collision, we don't know. Storm, it's right, like we don't know. But I got to tell you, I think that this now, correlation is not causation, right? Coincidence is not causation, but it is worth pointing out that at the same time, on the same day that those two ships were sinking, this ship, the one on the right there, you can see there's already water across the bow. It's an engineering vessel. It's a crane ship, right? Can be used for loading and offloading cargo from the docks to other ships or out at sea from ship to ship. Now, this thing sunk yesterday, same day, same time, but look, 100 miles away off the coast of Yalta. It is worth pointing out, I think, that also coincidentally, There were air raid alerts and Ukrainian drones spotted in the air in these locations. So, look, I don't know that the Ukrainians had anything to do with this. They're going to want to, if they did, they're going to want to distance themselves from the ecological disaster of the oil vessels. But it is an awfully big coincidence that a third ship sunk too. Now, playing devil's advocate, we know that the Russian ships are not in good shape. Like, Russia's a land, for most of its history, Russia's a landlocked country with, it had to acquire in more recent times of its history seaports, all of which freeze in the winter. They're not available. So it's never had much of a navy. It was Catherine the Great that got them Sevastopol, right, and their first warm water port. And that's only 200 years ago. The British have had naval fleets for 1,000 years. So the history of navy in Russia does not exist. Um, and there is an armed enemy nearby. Maybe the Ukrainians took out the crane ship, but not the oil ships. Don't know. Don't know. But the whole thing about the giant wave crashing over the bow seems to me to be about the equivalent of the armies. Debris fell on the territory of the oil depot. That's what it sounds like to me. Now, last Thursday's ATACMS attack on Taganrog. You know, for 2 days, I couldn't understand why Putin was so pissed about this because in the news, they were reporting it as an attack uh, near Taganrog Air Base, not on Taganrog Air Base. And it's at Taganrog Air Base where a couple of things. See that building on the left there with those big IL-76s out in front? That's the repair shop uh, for the IL-76s and the A-50s, the Russian AWACS. We know that there was an AWAC. I think I have it in this picture. If you look, that second plane from the right, you can see the radar dish on top of that plane, right? The Russian AWACS are built on the IL-76 body, and then they have additional components. That's a $350 million plane that they've been working on for 6 months to try to get it running after the Ukrainians blew 2 of their A-50s out of the air, right? Remember that? 6 months they've been trying to get that thing working. Now, if you look in the roof of that building, you can see some holes. Those holes are from an earlier missile attack, an earlier drone attack, which I reported on probably 4 or 5 months ago. That those holes are not from this, but it is my understanding, and we're just waiting on satellite photos, that that repair shop was a major target of this attack. That's not the only major target of this attack. This building over here, the long uh, horizontal one in front there, or diagonal one in front. That's the office of the 5th Air Force Division, something like that. Sorry, it just slips my mind right now. But I'll show you a still from a video clip of inside that building in 1 second. And then finally, that VPP Taganrog there, the building with the blue circle, that is the Beriev plant where they make the parts to repair the planes. And it appears that all of that was hit. Now, look, here's a still from video that one of the guys on the base released. He's going through his office of the 5th Airborne Division or whatever it was. And he says it's all blown away. It's all blown away. And I didn't bother with the video for a couple of reasons. It's just a destroyed building. And while we believe that it's very likely that building, there's always the chance with the Russians that it's just another building. And I didn't want to spend too much time on it. But it appears that not only was the repair shop hit, not only was the production facility hit, but additionally, the command and control was hit. That's a big deal. That's a big deal for the Air Force. That's a big deal for their ability to carry out sorties against the Ukrainians. It pushes them back farther and it denies them the repair capabilities and retrofitting capabilities of this frontline repair shop and production facility. It's a big deal. You can see why that would be a major target for the handful of ATACMs that the Ukrainians likely have. Another big story this weekend that came out, the Ukrainians released all this video footage, that claims to show North Koreans in action in Kursk. And according to the Ukrainians, the North Koreans have, in fact, taken the town of Pelkove, if I'm not mistaken, or Kovo. So a small town in Kursk, village in Kursk. And if you look in the lower left-hand corner, like ants on a beach, those are supposed to be the North Korean soldiers. The full video is at the Proofs Dnieper Telegram channel. And as is the one above it, those little dots there, those horizontal dots, those are the soldiers supposedly. And then again, from some military surveillance drone, we have again what are supposed to be North Korean soldiers. Now, look, I tend to believe what the Ukrainian armed forces tell me. I do. However, there is no way from these pictures to tell who these people are. They could be Ukrainians for all I know. Though one has to say that the disorganized way they cross that field in daylight, whoever they are, I think they could use some training. I certainly don't know whether or not these are North Koreans, but I am inclined to believe that they are. Because in the past, the Ukrainians have steered me right. As far as I'm concerned, the intelligence briefings that say the North Koreans are there are enough for me to know the North Koreans are there. Sure, I'd like to see some pictures and some more North Korean soldiers captured, but I'm willing to be patient. Now, this is the kind of thing that when this war is over, Hollywood is going to come looking for a script to this. Now, this should not be confused with the fuel cars that were blown up in Bryansk 10 days ago. This is a totally different thing. This is a fuel train in Zaporizhia. So inside of occupied Zaporizhia, you have a train of 40 tanker cars filled with diesel. I believe it was all diesel. Might have been some regular gas in there, might have been some kerosene for planes and helicopters. But I think primarily it was the Army runs on diesel, and I think most of those 40 cars were diesel, if not all of them. And the reason why you can't see a train, but you can see a fire, is because some brave Ukrainian and his compatriots working for the SBU, as I understand it, this is an SBU operation, snuck across the front line, sneaked their way through occupied Zaporizhia to get to this railroad line just before they knew this fuel train of 40 fuel cars was about to come through. They get there, they mine the track, they send up a reconnaissance drone to film it, they get their drone and their video back, and then they sneak back through enemy occupied territory across the active front line to share this video with us of their successful mission blowing up 40 tanker cars and the train and the tracks. It's the stuff of legend. It's the stuff of legend. No joke. This could be this one operation and its significance, right? Because obviously this is how they get the fuel to the front line. That track is going to require repair. And while those repairs don't take a lot, they take some effort. And right now, the Russians have very little extra effort to exert. They don't have the manpower, right? So they're going to have to, where are they going to get the guys to do the work? They're going to have to pull them from somewhere, which means other work isn't getting done. So that's good for everybody as far as I'm concerned. But this is an astonishing operation that had incredible success. And my hat is off to the brains behind it. And I think, no, I got one more thing after this. So the Ukrainian armed forces are saying that their new Hell missile, the Pelko, the Peklo, is now in mass production and they've got 100 of them. That's what they're saying. And they showed us 20 of them. Could be they have more. I don't know. They used 10 recently to hit an oil depot in Oriel. So they're using them. Or I guess that was the first use of them. 10 went out, 4 were intercepted, the other 6 hit the target. But they are in mass production is what the Ukrainian armed forces are saying, and they've got 100 of them in stock ready to go already. Well, I guess 90 after the oil depot. Finally, in international news, the upcoming German election between Olaf Scholz on the right there and Merz on your left is coming down, it appears to be a referendum on Ukraine for the Germans. Olaf Scholz on the one hand saying, we will not send Taurus, we will not send peacekeeping troops. Merz on the left saying, we will send Taurus, we will give Putin an ultimatum, we will support Ukraine through this. So we'll see. If I'm not mistaken, this election is like January 26th, something like that. So this is coming right up, and we'll watch that closely. Okay, my friends, that is the news that we are waking up to for Monday, the 16th of December, 2024. The lights just came back on. I was able to record this. I prepared it in the dark, but recorded it with the lights on. Now the oven is on, and I'm going to go bake some cookies. All right, I'll catch you all later.